and welcome. My name is Megan, and today we are diving back into my journal. August has just come to an end, so we are going to be wrapping up summer and embarking on our autumn pages. So I wanted to take a few minutes to flip back through what summer looked like in my planner and journal, and then maybe we'll get into a little bit of decorating and prep for September. So here is what the month of August looked like. I'm not sure how much July has changed since we last spoke, but here is how we're looking right now. It's still a little sparse, I feel. I just have quite a bit of open space that I haven't quite figured out what I want to be doing with these monthly pages other than using it as a planner for my events for the month. And then I sort of fill in some of the gaps with stickers related to something that happened that day or things that we did, just as a little bookmark, I suppose. And then that leads into our weekly pages. So this is where we left off, my first couple of days of August. And this was back when I was still writing sort of a summary of the day, broken down into hours. I enjoy the way this looks and filling up the page with as many words as I can, but it was rather taxing to have to go in every couple of hours and update with what I'd been doing. And I don't feel as if I've been going back and referencing this all too much, because I just go back and reference my daily pages if I'm interested in what I had been doing that day. And so in August, I transitioned the weekly pages into more of a to-do list, which for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with. You'll see some to-do lists, some reminders at certain times during the day. I even have lists of evening projects that I could work on rather than rotting on the couch. So I'm fairly certain this will be the format that I carry through the rest of the year. We shall see. Who knows? But I really enjoyed not having to carry around 2 books throughout my day, even just around my house, to keep track of what needed done still, what I was doing in the moment. Once I complete this book, though, we shall see what happens. It's been so interesting to be involved in the Hobonichi hype in September for the first time, because this is my first Hobonichi book, and getting into the community online has opened my eyes to the wonderful, amazing variety of Hobonichi drops this year. But to me, it feels so early to be planning what I'll be using next year, partially because I did start with an Avec, which begins in July. So I've only been in this journal for 2 months, and I'm, still feeling it out, still figuring out if this is what I want to do for the long haul, or if this is just going to be a 1-year experiment and then I move on to something else, because I love variety. I want to commit and finish whatever I started, but I love the variety of starting a new project. So we'll see. Right now I'm still pleased with my Hobonichi, but who knows what format will be calling to me in 4 months. I will say though, this year's releases, there has been so much drama and conversation around it, and I feel like I'm brand new to it, so I'm just kind of watching the conversation from the outside. But I have to say, I'm quite tempted by the blank graph paper Moomin notebooks. Oh my gosh, adorable. And then the Little House Weeks, I believe it was. I grew up on that book, and I feel like no one talks about it. I was so shocked to see it acknowledged, but I don't know that is for me. I don't know that I can commit to that bold of a design for a full year. We'll see. We'll see what I end up thinking, probably around December, once I've gotten a feel for what it's like to stick in one book for the long haul And once I am building my Christmas list is kind of what I'm thinking. So probably around November, December is when I will be deciding for sure what comes next after this. Another week of to-do lists. I liked the colors. I loved the colors and the stickers on this page. This was more colors that I don't usually use, which is why I'm a little proud of how it turned out, because yellow and like this, like periwinkle, I suppose, and some teals, not what I usually gravitate toward, but I like it. I like how eclectic it kind of turned out. You will see my to-do lists shrinking a little bit. I think I was very excited to be filling up my page with to-do lists, and then it petered out a little bit simply because I can only do so many things in the day, especially without overwhelming myself. Another rather sparse week here. Who knows, I might go in and touch this up a little bit. I wonder, maybe I will put a little bit, probably up there, a little bit of washi just to add a bit more color. There, that looks nice, I think. Most of these weekly pages, you'll see I am using a combination of washi tapes just to fill in some of the gaps, especially at the top and bottom. Some specialty stickers, because I do love stickers. And then another way that I fill in some of the extra space is with my old Happy Planner stickers. I went through a Happy Planner phase several years ago, and I am still working through these stickers. I loved the idea of having a decorative planner, but for whatever reason, it didn't click for me. I used them for a couple of years, but I still like some of these stickers, and these bigger ones are good for filling in space on Hobonichis. I really enjoyed these. This particular variety is almost assuredly not available anymore because these are a little old, but if you go to your local craft store, you very well might be able to find some pretty sizable packs for, on the whole, pretty cheap. So I do think this page could use a tiny bit more love. And then, oh boy. This page was a little sparse with the words, and I think I went a little sticker crazy because of that. This is definitely more chaotic than I typically prefer. And it was another case of using up some of the colors that I don't use a lot. I think that was part of it, is anything pink. I was like, slap that on the page, and now it turned very pink. And that brings us to this week, a little September preview for you. And I'm still working on the decorations and obviously the to-do lists. A lot of my to-do lists I have to wait until the night before or the morning of, just to account for sometimes not always reaching my to-do list goals, so I don't fall too far behind. Let's add a little bit. I tend to start the week with just a few little bits and bobs just to make it exciting to look at, but then as the week goes on, I kind of go in periodically to make it a little more exciting. A fun little craft adventure midweek. So this is what I am working with this week. That's what I'm doing right now. Hello. But that brings us to the end of the weekly pages, which means it's time to go to our daily pages. Still going strong with our Winnie the Pooh cover pages. Poor Eeyore, just floating along. I feel that. I think that's why I picked this for the cover. And here we are. On August 1st, we went to Gen Con, which, if you're not a huge nerd, Gen Con is the US's biggest tabletop game convention. So creative indie board games, lots of Dungeons and Dragons and other RPGs. We're big nerds. This is our scene. So I taped in just some ephemera. This is a little receipt from getting dessert, and I cut this out of the program for Gen Con. You'll see a few more cutouts as well. And then this gorgeous D20 die. A friend of mine got this for me for Christmas years and years ago, and I was always too afraid to put it on anything. But now I know I treasure my journal enough to use my best stickers in it. So I finally used my best sticker. And that was such a busy day that I ended up using all of my journaling space just on the daily documentation. Then over here, I did another daily documentation, didn't get to any creative writing that day, but I did include one of the business cards that I collected at Gen Con. There were so many amazing artists, and I was so close to getting something from World of Trash because there were so many little possum and raccoon and trash collecting creatures at this booth. I wanted to make sure I kept the information for if I did eventually go back and want to buy something. And I am so bad usually about losing artist cards, so I thought, why don't I just use it as a decoration? I still get the benefit of the weird little possums. They're so fun. But now I know where it will be when I want to reference it again. A few more random bits and bobs on this page. This is another cutout from the Gen Con program, and I made sure to make a note at the end that it is a picture from the game Knitting Circle by Emily Vincent. So if you're a cat person, check it out. I haven't played it, but it's got this adorable little orange cat on it. And that worked out nicely because we were over at a friend's place that day playing some games, and she has a little orange cat just like this. She reminded me of her, so I had to include her. Oh, it looks like that's peeling up a little bit. I was so happy with this glue stick when I first started using it, but now I feel like everything I glue down needs a second gluing, otherwise it just falls off. So I don't know if I can recommend this Aleene's Industrial Strength because it is just not sticking down great, although it does make me feel a little better when I'm decorating ahead of time that I can probably just pull the thing off and it'll be fine if I decide I need to swap things around. Anyway, back to the spread. On this side, I journaled a bit about the kind of rocky road we've had on trying to adopt a dog. I was just all up in my feelings that day because it's just been this cycle of getting my hopes up and then disappointment and then having to hype myself up again. It's been a ride. On this side, I split up my journaling kind of between this adorable cassette. I love this. But on the top, I wrote a bit about my swap on my weekly pages into having a to-do list instead of a daily summary, just to kind of give some context to that. And then down here, I wrote just a bit about a goal I'm working toward to build a community of, I wrote, crafty, kind, and thoughtful people. So if you're here, thank you for being one of my crafty, kind, and thoughtful people. I love getting to share this with you guys and then seeing what you guys are doing in journaling too, and in writing and in crafts and all sorts of things. So a little shout out to you guys. I love this page. It's super simple, but I love the triangle design principle, in case you hadn't noticed on like all of my pages. But I love the colors. It's so bright and friendly, but also a little minimal. I have a random butterfly. That didn't really mean anything. I didn't have anything else to put on that day, and I thought he was so cute. And then I wrote a journal prompt that I found on Pinterest. You might remember that I started my journal section with a list of writing prompts, which I do keep revisiting. I do like these prompts, but I try to keep these to things that I can always come back to, that the answer might be different depending on the day. Like what I'm grateful for, what's challenging me, what I've been thinking about. But on this page, I went on Pinterest and found a prompt about more self-reflection. When do you feel the most like yourself? And that's something that I don't feel like the answer is going to change too much. So not something that I wanted to put on my prompts page, but definitely something fun to write about once and really think through. On this page, I had been reading Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. Highly recommend. But it got me thinking again how I want my writing as a freelance writer and author to impact the world more than just putting out a fun story or a fun thing to read, because this book and the doors that have opened for him as an author and as an advocate for people in need are they're massively inspiring. I love John Green. But I took some time to write about how his work has been inspiring me and what I think I might like to pursue to make a bigger difference. And then this little sticker actually worked out nicely. It was a random freebie from, years ago, some book event. So that fit pretty perfectly in there. The next day we tried out a new cafe. So I obviously kept my take-home bag and cut out the logo off of that. And then I did a little drawing. This is something I would love to do some more in this journal. I just drew little coffee and pastry that I brought home, and of course kept the little sticker off of my pastry bag. And that, being the highlight of the day, inspired me to write. I went back to my prompt and looked at what are you grateful for today, and I wrote, one thing I'm grateful for today is food, and wrote a little bit about something so simple that I know I take for granted, that food keeps us healthy, gives us energy, gives us strength, helps our minds work. And it's so massively important. And I'm so grateful to be living in a season where I don't even really have to think about obtaining food. So a little gratitude reflection there. And then on this day, I wrote another prompt that I had found online. What is something you wish others knew about you? So I thought through that, and then a little aside at the end of the page. Apparently there have been a couple hundred armadillo sightings in Indiana, in central Indiana where I live, which was so wild. I would never think I would see an armadillo just walking around near home. So I put a little armadillo sticker there to commemorate that and wrote about it, because what a wild thing. And I think that'll be fun to look back on someday, that was what was in the news that day. On Saturday, we had another cafe day, so we went and brought our own little creative projects and sat in a cafe for a while we worked. So for part of my free journaling section, I just did a reflection on what I could see. I did a little people watching, writing about the people I saw and the food in front of me and just the details of everything around me. And then the second half, because around this time we headed home, so my train of thought was broken. But we had another false hope, miscommunication, dog adoption situation. So I wrote a little bit about my frustrations with that, even though it's no one's fault. I had an email miscommunication with someone and finally got it worked out, and then it was all for nothing because the dog had just been adopted. So just a little mini rant there. And then didn't get to any journaling here. You'll see I start to slow down at this point, I think, in the month. But I did include this little plastic packaging from an ice cream I ate. And I love using stuff like this. I obviously cleaned it with dish soap and everything before gluing it down. But taking actual garbage and turning it into ephemera, so fun for me. Oh, speaking of, this was, I believe, cut out from a piece of mail, if I remember correctly. This was just a random magazine or ad cutout that worked perfectly because we went to a coffee shop that day. Yeah, we're definitely slowing down on the free writing bits. But I can talk a little bit about the ephemera. This is another business card from Gen Con. This was my favorite booth at the entire giant convention because I was there. I love RPGs, but I was there for Artist Alley, and this is the artist of these buttons that I keep using for decoration. I got this little koi set, and then I got this Moomin set that you've probably been seeing in the background of some of my videos. Oh my gosh. I kept the business card because these buttons were just what I could afford to bring home that day. I definitely want to do a bit more damage. My plan is to use these as journal accessories. This particular cover does not really have anywhere I can attach a pin like this. One of my next notebooks will have to be something that has like an elastic coming down the side so that I can pin these on. I wish I used buttons more because I love them, but I don't. But that was what I had in mind when I got these. If they ever release stickers or notebooks, it's all over. My money is all going to this shop. I filled out the other page with just some stuff that matched the colors of this business card. The crab and the seaweed really don't have anything to do with that day. I love when I can weave in the ephemera with what I was doing that day, but you know, some days are just not very interesting and you need to use up some stickers. Kind of like this page. I have a random lamp that I don't think has to do with anything other than I was on Facebook Marketplace looking for furniture. And then my random orange is to signify Taylor being on the New Heights podcast. I had to document it. And so the life of a showgirl orange, which is kind of what I wrote about for my whole free writing section. On this side, I wrote about interior design a bit because I've been watching a lot of videos, especially Caroline Winkler. Shout out because she has reinvigorated my my interior design inspiration. So I cut out this rug from just a furniture catalog because I had gotten a new rug off of Facebook Marketplace this day. And then I'm not sure what the baskets are about. I think that was just to go with my decor theme. But what I wrote about was some of the things I was learning from Caroline's channel and some of the things I want to focus on to elevate some of the rooms that I'm finally starting to feel like are kind of finished around my home. On this weekend in particular, I had a bachelorette weekend to go to. We went to a lake house, went kayaking, all that fun stuff, and it was the perfect time to use this nautical wrapping paper. Let me go grab that to show you. I found this old, nautical gift wrap at the thrift store and immediately was so drawn to it. It's so, it's so cool. It's very loud, sorry. I love the art style. I love it. So I cut out a bunch of those little images and spread them out on the page. And I just let the documentation of the day take up the whole page. I was way too busy to be doing extra journaling anyway because I was hanging out with friends. And then I included a little kayak picture from an old dictionary that I cut out. And then the end of our little weekend getaway, I used a big piece of that wrapping paper and then wove my daily journaling kind of around that. The spacing got a little funky. But then I had the next day at home and I had all these American Girl stickers that worked for camping. And I was like, I used the wrapping paper for all these pages, but I really want to squeeze one of these in. So I squeezed in one little picture of a girl. She looks like me with the brown hair, and I had a little green bandana on the whole weekend. So that's my extra little camping sticker. And then this sad little deflated smiley face balloon. That was kind of how I felt that day. It felt appropriate. And then I filled in the blank space with my review after finishing Everything is Tuberculosis. Again, highly recommend. Great book. A couple pages of just kind of boring everyday life. So just squeezed in what stickers I could. I put my little Gudetama because some days I just feel like a lazy egg. A random American Girl sticker and the sticker from some food I ordered that day. And then we just finished watching the show Frieren, another highly recommended piece of media. But I wrote my review of that down here, just a very slice of life fantasy anime, if that's your kind of thing. And I didn't even have any particularly deep thoughts about it, but I just, with what space I had, wrote any random thoughts that I had about it that came to mind. And I think that's okay too. It doesn't need to be, a full literary analysis. It was just some thoughts that I'd been having, and that's all it needs to be. A couple more days of almost nothing. This day I barely even had any actual daily log to do, so I included this little cutout of Winnie the Pooh to fill in some of that space. And then a little cutout from a thrifted cookbook that we got pizza that night, so that was my little illustration of my husband and I dining on our fine dining pizza takeout. No special journaling here either. We played D&D that day, so I included a little die and a fantasy axe. And then, I'm not sure, was I doing some decorating that day? No, not really. Okay, just a random kitchen island that I had cut out from a furniture catalog. Furniture catalogs are starting to be one of my favorite sources of ephemera. I don't get that many in the mail, but when I do, I can cut out all of the pretty fancy furniture that I totally can't afford and use it as journal decorations instead. Kind of got a wild, random assortment of things on these days, but they were actually, believe it or not, kind of relevant to the days that I put them on. This day, I had gotten a lampshade finally for a lamp that I've had sitting around. So I used this cute lamp out of just a catalog that I cut out to sort of commemorate that. And then we watched How to Train Your Dragon, and this little Beanie Baby chameleon, I don't know, I feel like he kind of looks like some of the dragons in that movie. So that was my random assortment for that day. And then I went through a stint of drawing. I will just randomly go on a kick where I am drawing on the iPad for days and days straight. And I was kind of in the middle of one of those. So this is just an American Girl artist easel sticker. I'm very pleased with what appears to be a very random assortment of things. And then this page, I actually switched up my format a little bit, which I haven't been doing all that much, and that's part of why I wanted to get a Hobonichi, was to experiment with some of this stuff. So I split up this page with just a swatch of washi tape. This tape from Studio Calico, you are going to be sick of this tape by the time I'm done with this journal because I am using it constantly. You've definitely already seen that on multiple pages. And then I added some relevant ephemera for the day. I got us DQ that night, so I included a little milkshake that I'd cut out from a dessert cookbook. And then I've got my cute little buggy Beanie Baby guy, which is kind of relevant because I started playing Hollow Knight this day, which is a very good, but maybe a little too difficult for me, video game about a little buggy guy. That's very reductive of what it is. It's a very well thought out, great game, but it is also about cute little bugs. So got my little buggy, and then I saw a post this day, just a silly little Instagram reel that had said, maybe finding yourself just means being who you were at 13, but letting the world see her this time. And it was just a cute little girly post, but it did make me think through, could that be an indicator of who I am way deep down, is the things that I loved as a kid and am now just feeling free to to show. So I made this whole section about it. I titled it with this is just Crayola marker that I had laying around. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just what I had laying around. And then I made this list of things that actually goes on to the next page. Things that I loved when I was 13. And then that journaling kind of continued on to the next day. I have my list here, and then on the next day I went in and kind of reflected on what I was able to pull from this list. So I wrote about how I have always been a nostalgic, and you can see that from loving the same shows and loving memory keeping. I was the kid who flipped through old photo albums and watched old home videos all the time. And that's something that hasn't changed about me. And it's a little reassuring that is and has always been a part of who I am. And the same thing is true of my love of words. I loved reading. I loved writing. I wrote for the fun of it and not just for my job back then. I loved song lyrics. And then my third little observation was that I love weird little secondhand trinkets. For a long time, I just decorated the way I felt like you should. I would go on Pinterest, see the most bland, plain room and go, well, that's what a grown-up's house looks like. So I guess that's what I need to do. But as my style has been shifting and changing and I've been trying to figure out what is actually me. And so thinking back on my love of garage sales and weird little trinkets, I have a couple little trinkets on my desk I can show you. Around the time I was 13 is when I got this gentleman. His name is Coolness. That tracks from 13-year-old me. I also have, let me grab somebody you've probably seen in a few of my videos, is this little ceramic pig that was my granny's, and I loved him as a child. And so when we were cleaning out her house, I knew that I needed to keep this little pig of hers. This is the stuff that I have always gravitated toward, even as a kid. Like that's not the kind of stuff that I feel like a usual middle schooler is into, but I was. So to look back and think about the things that I have consistently loved for the past 20-something years, I feel like that does reveal something about me. Beyond all the trends and polish, looking for the things that are really just me. And me is someone who loves funky, weird little trinkets. And then that brings us to the end of the month. So now we're looking at September. I've got this adorable little Christopher Robin illustration. He's eating an apple and taking a little walk. It felt so cozy and fall. And I've mentioned before that I'm not sure. I've got all of these Winnie the Pooh cover pages, and I haven't been sure whether I want to add any extra decoration or just leave them as is. I think I am going to commit today to actually adding some other illustration. I know, it's crazy. Committing with stickers couldn't be me. But I pulled out a few things that I think I might use, and I thought you guys might like to do some decorating with me. First, I've got these little bows from the Ephemera Club on Etsy, and you've definitely seen a few of these throughout the book, but I feel like this little blue, oh, that's so cute, right? Like I couldn't possibly regret that. Okay. I pulled out a couple of like boots and leggings from my American Girl book. Very, very fall themed. So I'm kind of thinking maybe some little boots. And then I've got a bit of a decision. I pulled these out to be kind of my fall and Halloween season stickers. This little bat, I had this bat growing up, so I see this and I think of fall immediately. And some part of me wants to stick her right there. Like that would be cute, but some part of me also wants to go to Halloween and put both the ghosty and the bat on here. These are the tough decisions because I only have one of each sticker for now. We'll see. I've been loving the Beanie Babies so much, I might have to go on eBay and see if I can find another. But like, wouldn't that be so cute? Luckily, the Hobonichi paper I have found to be pretty forgiving with resticking things. So I'm hoping that maybe I will stick our little bat friend down. And then if I really decide I need to change my mind, we can reevaluate at a later time. Oh, she's so cute. Okay. So in that case, let me tuck these back into October. And then, oh my gosh, I was complaining last time about how I prefer to stick my stickers in ahead of time to make sure that I don't forget about them. I was like, but the problem is they always fall out. On that video, someone commented saying they just use a washi tape that they don't like very much to tape it in so it doesn't fall out. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so brilliant, but also feels like it should have been totally obvious to me. I don't know why I didn't think of this. So something else I'm gonna do to prepare for our fall season is tape these little bits in so that I can keep writing throughout September and not completely lose all my stickers. Literally, so easy. The answer was right in front of me the whole time. To the person who suggested that, you are my hero. And you're also so brilliant and so smart. Actually a genius. Look at that. And then this is the stuff that I pull from bigger sticker sheets. I put on parchment paper so that it has kind of its own little unstickable temporary sticker sheet. Oops. Pulling things out. But that is going to be so much better. And it's not all clumped near the spine. So it's not going to make such a big lump either. Oh my goodness. Okay. Now I do think we're going to need some like washi. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, I'm second guessing my bat. And then like maybe the boots. Still love the bat, but when I do put her on here, it starts to feel a little overwhelming unless I just completely sticker bomb the whole page. And I've got this little scrap that I cut off from here. I wonder if I could some of this to go with the blue. Okay, I think I have officially fiddled with this as much as I can, at least right now. I am still so not sure about this bat because I love it so much that I don't want to waste it on not being absolutely certain that's what I want. I don't mind this either. I'm gonna leave her there for now, I think. Here's my poll. Do we prefer just the plain illustration or all of the stickers, a little bit of a sticker bomb situation, or do we prefer this but with no bat? Leave your vote in the comments because I cannot make up my mind. So I need your opinions, guys. But with that, I believe September is all prepped and ready to go. I have started my first couple of entries. A little sneak peek there. I am very much looking forward to this month in journaling. I don't have any particular plans for the month really, so this will be a lot of pages of experimentation, just chugging along through everyday life, and a month of assessing what next year might look like for journaling, because I will be keenly watching all of the people who pre-ordered their planners for next year and start to receive them in the mail and start to kind of see how I'm feeling about it. Thanks for hanging out with me through a whole season in my journal, and let's see what the autumn season has in store for us. In the meantime, I wish you all the best, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.